The old Ford Ranger clanked and hissed as he turned off the ignition just outside the showroom. The dusty blue truck, its paint chipped and the seat patched with duct tape, didn't draw a single glance. And that was the point. Dressed in faded jeans, a worn-out canvas jacket, and boots caked with dry, red Texas clay, he blended in like any working man stopping by after a long shift. No one would guess that 12 hours earlier, he'd been reviewing financials and signing checks in an office high above this very lot. The car dealership, just outside Amarillo, Texas, wasn't enormous, but it was successful. A Chevy GMC hybrid store he bought 5 years ago, flipped inside out, modernized, and staffed with eager young employees. He paid well, trained harder, and trusted that his people treated every customer right. Until recently. Welcome, folks. Can I get you some water or coffee? AC's on full blast inside, the younger man chirped, all teeth and charm. The CEO took it all in. He stopped by a silver Sierra 1500. Clean body, slight dent in the passenger side. The tag read $24,300. He crouched to check the tread on the tires. Got some miles on her, said a voice behind him. It was the first salesman again, hands jammed in his pockets. But she runs okay. How many miles? About 110K. Think the service records are somewhere. Want me to check? The CEO rose slowly, letting his gaze drift back toward the glass showroom. Inside, the couple was already seated with drinks, smiling, chatting with the other salesman. He looked around. This was his business. His name was on the checks, the building, the policies. And what he was seeing didn't sit right, not at all. Inside the glass-walled showroom, the young couple were already laughing with the second salesman, even though they hadn't glanced at a single truck yet. The man outside turned his attention back to the older salesman in front of him. Yeah, I'd like to see the maintenance records. Maybe take it for a spin. The salesman sighed as if it were a chore. Sure, I'll grab the keys. As the man disappeared into the building, the CEO pulled out his phone and tapped a quick note. The wind carried faint laughter from inside the showroom. But what he heard next stung far deeper. The salesman came back, keys dangling from one finger, a crumpled maintenance sheet in the other. Here's the info and the keys. 20 minutes or so, he said, like a DMV clerk counting down to break time. The CEO scanned the printout, bare-bones history, an oil change, a tire rotation, and one battery swap. Nothing matched the mileage. He folded the sheet and slid it into his back pocket. Thanks. Mind if I ask a few questions before I take it out? The salesman sighed again. Like what? Any accidents? How many previous owners? You mentioned it runs all right. That means it's had issues. The man shifted, clearly annoyed. Couple owners, maybe 3. Had a little fender bender, nothing serious. And no, nothing's wrong with it. I said it runs, didn't I? The CEO gave a slight nod. Just checking, since I'd be the one spending the money. Another shrug. No apology. No clarity. No effort. Then the CEO looked him in the eye and asked, if I showed up in khakis and a lease agreement, you think we'd be having a different conversation? The question hung in the air. It wasn't just a few bad attitudes. It was something baked into the system. Returning to the lot, he parked in the same spot, stepped out, and headed toward the showroom. Inside, bright lights reflected off polished floors. The couple were now seated at a sleek desk, sipping bottled water as the younger salesman showed them a touchscreen display. No one glanced his way, not the receptionist, not the floor manager glued to his laptop. He could have been invisible. He walked up to the front desk. I just drove the silver Sierra. I'd like to move forward. The receptionist, a pale woman with a tight ponytail, looked up with no smile. Which truck? 2016 Sierra. Silver. About 110,000 miles. She typed without looking at him. Let me find someone. No, thanks for coming in. No, how was the drive? Just silence and clicking keys. After a minute, the same uninterested salesman reappeared, clipboard under one arm. You ready to go over numbers? The man, Andre, watched from across the room as a young customer, maybe in his early 20s, took a few timid steps forward, clearly hoping someone would acknowledge him. No one did. Not a word. Not a glance. After a long pause, the young man slowly turned around and walked out. Andre's jaw tightened, but he stayed quiet. Back at the sales desk, the older salesman slid a contract across the table. If everything looks good, go ahead and sign. Andre picked up the pen, hovering over the paper. Then a voice called out behind him, loud, clear, frustrated. Why is he getting help while I've been standing here for 10 minutes? Everyone turned. But it wasn't anger that made the voice cut through the air. It was conviction. Calm, unwavering, undeniable. Andre stood up slowly. His tone never changed. He didn't need to yell. "You want to talk about fairness?" he said to the man who'd spoken. "Start by asking yourself how fair it is to judge someone by their boots and jacket." The man muttered something under his breath. Andre didn't respond to it. He wasn't here to win an argument. More staff had gathered now. The finance manager stepped forward cautiously. The younger salesman, the one who'd been all smiles for the couple earlier, poked his head around the corner, saw what was happening, and quietly slipped out of sight. Andre turned his attention back to the room. "You think I didn't notice?" he said. The couple in the black SUV, they were greeted before the doors even closed. Big smile. Fresh water bottles. A full welcome. He gestured toward himself. Meanwhile, I got pointed to the lot with a grunt. No questions. No help. Just another nobody walking through the door. He didn't sound angry. Just deeply, profoundly disappointed. "I didn't build this place to become another gate that keeps people out," he said. The salesman tried to recover. "Mr. Talbot, I didn't mean to." Andre cut him off, gently but firmly. "That's the problem. You don't mean to, but it still happens." A thick silence fell across the room. Not the awkward kind, the kind that demands change. He turned to the finance manager. "How long have you been here?" The man stood straighter. 3 years, sir." "And how many times have you seen something like this?" The manager looked at the floor. "More than once," he admitted. Andre nodded. "That's what I thought." He turned back to the contract on the table, picked up the pen again. But instead of signing, he drew a single, bold line through his own name. "I won't be buying anything today," he said, loud enough for everyone to hear. The salesman's eyes widened. "But it's a good truck. We've already done the paperwork." Andre looked him in the eye. "You didn't sell me that truck. I walked in ready to buy. All you did was give me a reason not to." A pause. Then, clearly and calmly, he added, "And after today, your time here is over." The salesman blinked. "Wait, what?" "You're being let go. Effective immediately." The manager stepped forward. "Should I contact HR?" "No," Andre said. "I'll take care of it personally." He didn't need to tell the man to leave. The silence said it for him. Every employee in the building could feel it, the moment the culture of the place shifted. Andre looked around at the others, receptionists, techs, junior sales staff, everyone watching from desks and corners. "If you think your job is just about moving cars," he said, "you're in the wrong place." He paused, then said with clarity, "Your job is to serve people. All people." Andre let that thought hang in the air. His voice softened, almost as if he was thinking out loud. "I built this place so no one would have to prove their worth just to be treated with decency," he said. "And if I have to break it down to rebuild it the right way, I will." The staff around him stayed quiet. Some looked stunned. Others looked ashamed. It seemed like his words had finally landed. But just as Andre turned to leave, walking with the calm conviction of someone who knew exactly who he was, a voice broke the silence. Andre stepped forward, closing the distance between them, not aggressively, but firmly. "You know what I wish?" he said, voice clear now. "I wish it was just one bad day. I wish this was an isolated thing. But it's not." He took out his phone and tapped the screen once, holding it up briefly. "I've got emails. Messages. From people who came in here and were ignored, dismissed, talked down to. And they all look like me." He swept his gaze across the room. "I watched a young man stand by that front door for 5 whole minutes. Not one person said a word. I watched your team trip over themselves to greet some folks, while pretending others didn't even exist. That's not a bad mood. That's a pattern." A hush fell again, and I still made it. I worked my way up, built something from scratch. But I swore, if I ever had a place like this, it would be different. Everyone would be treated the same. Everyone would feel like they mattered. Andre's voice cracked slightly, not from weakness, but from truth. "That's why this matters," he said. "Because how we speak to people, how we welcome them, how we listen, it tells the world who we are." The room went silent again. Not a word. Just the weight of honesty, finally heard. Then, slowly, Andre placed the pen back on the desk, straightened his jacket, and turned to walk away, not with rage, but with purpose. The man who'd stirred the tension earlier turned and walked out. No apology, no acknowledgement. Just silence and his back fading into the afternoon sun. Andre stood still, taking one last look at the employees before him. "This place needs to change," he said, calm but firm. "And that starts now." He was ready to leave. The weight of the moment felt complete, until a quiet voice broke through the stillness. "Mr. Talbert?" Andre paused and turned. The voice had come from the far end of the showroom, near the service counter. A young woman stepped forward, soft-spoken and reserved, her hair pulled into a neat bun. He recognized her faintly, someone who usually stayed behind the scenes, handling invoices and back-end work. She spoke again. "Danica," she offered, as if reading his mind. He nodded. "Right, Danica." Her tone was gentle, but her words carried weight. She looked down, her voice faltering only for a moment. "They told me to stay in my lane." Andre's face stayed steady, but something behind his eyes shifted. Danica looked around the room, no longer speaking just to him. "I thought someone higher up would step in. I figured eventually someone would say something. But maybe we all just kept waiting." Andre took a breath and walked toward her. "I'm glad you said something now," he told her. "It needed to be said," she replied, stronger this time. He turned back to the rest of the team. The faces around him had changed. Some avoided his gaze. Others looked down, conflicted. A few looked ashamed. "I didn't come here to embarrass anyone," Andre said. "But I needed to see this with—" His eyes drifted to the now empty desk of the fired salesman. "This isn't just about one guy," he said. "This is about changing how we operate, starting today." Then he turned to Danica. "Want to help me with that?" She blinked, surprised. "Me? You've seen the cracks. You've got the courage to speak up. That makes you valuable. I need someone inside who isn't afraid to tell the truth, even when it's hard." Danica's voice wavered, but only for a second. "Yes, I can." Andre smiled, his first real one of the day. "Good. Let's get to work." Then he turned back to the rest of the staff. "There's going to be a meeting tomorrow morning. Mandatory. We're not just rewriting policies, we're rewriting how we show up. For every single person who walks through those doors." He let the words hang. Then he walked to the entrance. Outside, the sun was bright and unrelenting. But Andre welcomed it. He stepped into the light, ready for the work ahead. His phone buzzed. A message from Melinda. "Everything okay?" He typed back. "Not yet. But it will be." There was still one more thing left to do, something important. Something that would bring this day full circle. Andre didn't head straight to his old Ford. "Didn't mean to startle you," he said. "I saw you earlier in the showroom." The young man pulled out one earbud, expression guarded. "You were waiting to be helped," Andre said. "But no one came." The young man nodded. "Yeah, not the first time." Andre tilted his head. "You've been looking for a vehicle?" "Yeah, a used truck. Nothing fancy. I've been to 5 dealerships the past couple weeks, same story every time." Andre exhaled. "What's your name?" "Ezekiel." "Ezekiel," Andre repeated. "I'm Andre. I own that dealership back there." Ezekiel's eyes widened. "You're serious?" "As a heart attack." Ezekiel let out a short, surprised laugh, not bitter, just real. "Man, I thought you were just another guy getting the cold shoulder." "I was," Andre said. "But I dressed this way today for a reason. I needed to see how—" "Welcome," she said, genuinely. Andre didn't interfere. He just stood back, arms folded, watching. This was why he started the business. Not just to sell cars, but to build something real. Something grounded in fairness and respect. Somewhere along the way, that mission had gotten buried. But it wasn't too late. When Ezekiel took a seat and Danica began showing him options, Andre stepped outside. This time for real. He got into the cab of his Ranger, started the engine, and sat for a moment, hands resting on the wheel. No music. No speeches. Just the low hum of the motor and the warm breeze floating in through the open window. He'd made a decision that day, not just about a truck, or an employee, or even a dealership, but about legacy. The kind of legacy that doesn't hang on walls or come in plaques. The kind that's built when a